welcome back to the Corey Haim, the series review. We're getting near the end now. More has been filmed for Last Resort. That will be the final episode. It's been hinted all the way through the series, but 6 days ago, 6 days, on the 7th day review of the film, I sat down and I lost a friend the weekend before, and I decided to sit down and have one like kind of last drink in the house kind of thing, because it's getting a regular occurrence and it's something I really want to nip in the bud, really. And I've been filming some bits and bobs and just coming in again 100 miles an hour filming, and again you're clicking on this video thinking I'm going to review American Sunset / Hostage Game, which I am. But if you've been following this for the series, this series is like a journey for me personally, getting to this point, when getting to the very end. Decisions has been on the cards for a while. Decisions doesn't work, but American Hostage Game does work. But I started to watch this, and then I ultimately ended up watching Last Resort after that twice. So it's not as hazy as I thought it was. So I said this a good few years ago. I managed to get a hold of a Hostage Game, dun dun dun, a long time ago. And it's one of my very, very early tweets. Corey Haim, brackets the Lost Boys. Frank Malona, no, nothing. The clock is ticking, Hostage Game. Now this is also called American Sunset. Now, I honestly do not know why this has not seen a bigger release. There's one of these on eBay right now for £50. This is pretty much Corey Haim's last movie. Dead Sea, don't know that. Again, Decisions around this time. Decisions, it's a bitty roll from what I remember of Decisions, but I remember seeing this. I remember ordering this as soon as it became available, so I think this was just a very, very limited batch. This is one of Corey Haim's best movies, and I want to tell you why in a second. Now, Hostage Game is a shit name for it. American Sunset is a shit name for it. So a better name could be needed for that. I do not see why this has not been released when you've got so many random bootleg movies that come out. And obviously at the same time, Do Not Disturb or New Terminal Hotel was released. So for this not to be released, this is a shame. Feldman's movie Jack's Motel, also known as 6 Degrees of Hell, that got a release under a different name. Give it a different name, that I just don't understand why. It's not in any kind of streaming service. If you haven't got the DVD, you ain't watching this unless someone puts it on YouTube. Now, I remember it being good, and I've been putting this one off. Wow, it's got a director's commentary. So I might revisit this for the channel as well. Didn't realise that. I remember it going, oh wow, that's great. Now, what I said before with Decisions, and if you look at stuff like Trade-In and you look at all the other bitty films here made, this movie is one of the ones where what would be next would be bloody interesting, because this movie, he's went in and he's the star of the movie. He's in the bulk of the movie. He's not playing a supporting character. The story revolves right around him, and for the better part, I think it's a brilliant final performance. It really is. Yeah, you could sit there and criticise the film and go, look, like, you know, like, sometimes you're like, he's not looking the right way, and like that kind of continuity between takes and stuff like that, which is victim to editing, you know what I mean? It's just sometimes you're doing stuff on the wing and on the fly, but I think he came into this fully committed. He does look a bit wired at times, I'm not going to lie, you know what I mean? But I think, you know, it was an interesting dynamic. I think this is one of the very first times you see him really being an adult in his movies, which isn't that many of them, you know. He always seems to hang on to the kid roles or the teenage roles or the miss area, but this an adult of playing a husband as well, which is very rare for him to do. The film, you know, like, I want to play a game. It's just like straight away, as soon as you hear that scream kind of Jigsaw voice, I want to play a game, you think, fucking hell, here we go. If you took that out of the equation and just sort of like twisted it a little bit so it wasn't in the moment of Saw, because there's a massive influence of Saw, not on the gore level, the twist of the film, the way the film is done. So whoever did it is a fan of Saw, or just jumping on the bandwagon of how popular the first Saw was when everyone didn't see it coming. Is he on the floor? Like, fucking hell. and I think this film carries it. Haim does get overshined by Frank, probably more than the guy who plays is like the partner in that. And it's a story about basically his wife goes missing and they're playing a cat and mouse game, and there's twists and turns, and Haim's got a gun, which you don't often see as well within his movies. And I think it's a really good movie. As I say, it could have been better polished, no doubt, but for what it is, I think he delivered well. But as a fan, in like after all these films, stuff like Fever Lake, and then you've got, like as I said, you've got these little bitty roles like Decisions and stuff like that. Newton Hotel he popped up in, and then this one is like Corey Haim right across the top, and he got back to that level. And you think like he died like less than 2 years after this was made or it was released. I mean, this came out after he died as well, and I think it's just a massive shame. I think now as well, he would have really been rolling in them big movies. There's he just missed out, and like sort of like the boom of the European movies, and like Vancouver and Canada, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like, it's just a shame of where he could have gone. But if you're a Haim fan, you need to see this movie. Take what you can away from the Saw elements of it, but on a trip back to Canada to celebrate their 5th wedding anniversary, he claims he's an American in this, Tom, Corey Haim, wakes to find his beloved wife missing, their vacation home now a crime scene. He is littered with clues of his wife whereabouts. In order to ensure a safe return, Tom, now a stranger in the land of his birth, is forced to cooperate with the practices of the local authorities, the political of the American embassy, and the unorthodox methods of a private investigator order to help him. So yeah, it's it does the whole Saw at the end, which is really twists and turns. But again, it was a lovely production, release disc. As I said, it's just a shame that's never seen the light of day on any format since this. So yeah, see you in the outtakes. Hello in the outtakes. So we've started, well, to be honest with you, we've been doing Last Resort now for about nigh on 6 months. It's I really think, like I always said, I wanted to release the series. I found that the other day in the shop. But I might have to start watching it just in case there's any recaps, and just start prepping the last episode, so when the last episode's meant to come out, that's when I'll release it. Because obviously the Last Resort thing, I mean, I ended up absolutely wasted, and just had a trip down memory lane about my friend and stuff. But these films, I mean, there's loads of films like behind us. I mean, just random films, but like, I just took a handful of films and went, right, Lost World. Remember seeing that in New Zealand when I was a kid. Fucking hell. Murder in the First came out in New Zealand when I was a kid. That's from the director of Dream a Little Dream. There's some amazing camera work on that. And then you look at that era as well, Johnny Mnemonic. It's never been opened, that Laserdisc. It's films like that you're always going to remember watching them, or you might have passion for them. And I think that's the thing with Haim and film and movies, Like, I remember, it's always going to be the hunt to find them down, and this one specifically would just been like a DVD. So, there's not that many of Haim's movies that are just DVD. The bulk of his collection is VHS. And I think this one was, after all the controversies, after all the weirdness and cameos and stuff like that, this was a hit. Not a massive hit, but it was a hit for him to go, what's next? And fair enough, Decisions might have been the one next, and then The Dead Sea was going to follow when he was going to play Oscar or something like that, which didn't turn out. He was going to come back in the Lost Boys 3 or 4, because I think Lost Boys 3, you could see he was in that, his archive footage, but I honestly think Lost Boys 3 was a pilot for a TV show which they didn't pick up, so they just wrapped it up and see how good it went. And Haim's involvement in the 4th one could have been spinning because they didn't pay that off in the 3rd movie, you know what I mean? So it's interesting where his career would have went after this. But again, The Hostage Game, poor name for it. American Sunset, really cool, but doesn't justify the blatant influence by Saw when Saw came out. So I just think maybe some kind of better name for it would have justified this. And again, I just think a wider release. I think this is a shame that this was never released. So yeah, American Sunset, The Hostage Game. There we go. Goodbye for now.